This is Great Minds. In this bonus episode, we have a conversation with Natalie Grace, who led the sound meditations in this series. We had a quick chat to Natalie about how she developed her practice, the instruments she uses, and how meditation helps her. So Natalie, tell me about your journey to becoming a sound healer.
Yeah, it was quite a winding path to get here. I do have origins in music. So I studied music. I started my working life in music. My first degree was in composition. And I was actually teaching singing in Italy and working as a musician there. And then my partner and I moved back to Australia. And to cut a long story short, I ended up in the corporate world, working in corporate comms, PR, marketing. I do come from a business family, so I got dragged into that for a few years. But I'd always kept the music as a side hustle and also meditation. Meditation has always been a part of my life. A very dear friend of mine, her mother taught me Tibetan Buddhist style of meditation, which is all sort of based on the breath. So I had music, I had meditation, and then I was, doing the corporate stuff for a living, and kids came along, work became more intense, traveling, and I kind of burnt out. It just became a lifestyle that was unsustainable. Another thing I really noticed was the way people acted in the workplace. People who really were outside of work, lovely people, beautiful families. And in the workplace, something would come over them. I guess it's almost like a fight or flight thing where you'd even see dark sides of people come out. So that was really interesting for me in the workplace. And that was also part of the burnout because I'm a bit of an idealist. I am a bit of a creative, and I did find myself a bit limited in terms of being able to be expressive, be genuine. I'd been actually told by senior management in different workplaces that I was too nice. And that was told to me by managers and bosses who I actually quite admired and who were very successful in what they did. They weren't jerks. They were actually trying to give me advice. And I was even told by someone I needed to be more of a bitch. And I started thinking, wait a second, I'm not sure if this is really where I want to be, if this is for me. I mean, I understand that you have to be a certain way in corporate. So, that all added on top to the workload, to managing children, to managing travel. Had a bit of burnout, decided to take 6 months off. And in that 6 months, I just dove into meditation and mindfulness. I took a few courses, for self-improvement. And I ended up going really deep into that study, got a diploma in it, and was offered a job to train meditation teachers.
Wow. Was that something that you even expected that would come out of this sabbatical? It was a parachute for you, and then it became something so much more.
Yeah. It was really just going to be some time off and potentially even returning to the same position I had left. And then I just never went back. So I started down that track with meditation mindfulness. Yeah, I never thought I would find work in it. But again, that's the best way to start. And it allowed me also time to reconnect with my children. So that was very valuable to me. And then I had this whole lifestyle flip in that time. Just a lot of amazing things happened. I went back into music. I started performing with bands and, touching onto that side of my life and my values again. Kept music and meditation very separate. I was actually very cynical about New Age music and music meditation and sound healing, sound therapy. I thought it was a bit of rubbish. But then one time I found myself working with a sound healer and I started learning a little bit. And I noticed that there were some parallels between the way music works, the theory and the structure of music and the way songs and pieces of music are created to bring out emotion or express certain things, and the way it's used in a therapeutic context. And I thought, oh, shoot, I've got to eat my words. It's actually great. So that then just got me diving deep into sound healing, sound therapy. And then, eventually everything sort of came together to where I am now. But yeah, it was a big winding journey.
Incredible. I think it would relate to a lot of people through that pandemic period where a lot of us felt kind of burnt out by the corporate sphere and the limitations of it. And there was, all this talk about more work-life balance, quiet quitting. Can you tell me a bit about, how you changed during that six-month period?
In that period of time, because I was gradually going into it, it progressed to a certain extent. I just went deeper and deeper and started uncovering layers of myself that I had actually probably actively chosen not to. You talk about going into your shadow self. And I had to come to an understanding that there were things in my life that needed to radically change. But previously, I kind of knew that when I was going through the motions before this time. But that space made it very clear that these things really did have to change. I couldn't just keep moving on and going, oh no, let's just put that in the too hard basket for now. So it really kind of caught me up that time. So for me personally, having that space, and I don't know if it even mattered what I was doing in that time. It was just the fact that I was out of the rushing around from here to there and everywhere, and just having a bit more space in my life caused me to really just think of my direction. And it did take a bit of courage, because it was a massive risk to just plunge myself into a completely different field, and also establish my own business in a way, which I'd never intended on doing in the past, because it's at no point did I actually make a huge decision to do it. I just was pushed in that direction.
And when did you go, hey, this could be transformative for other people and I could start doing this for other people? How did that happen?
I guess it really happened when I was offered the teaching position. I mean, I've always loved teaching. I've taught music before. I was offered the job at the school that I had been studying at, to train meditation teachers. So to teach components of their meditation diploma.
So that was almost like the universe plucking you out from being a student to being a teacher. And,
Yes.
You taking that jump to have the confidence to say, I can do that. Was that hard for you?
It wasn't hard, because I had a mentor. So I was actually taking over a couple of classes that my mentor was teaching. And so I felt supported the whole way. So this is what's so beautiful about this community. The concept of competition is not the same as it is in the corporate world. There's a lot more support. There's the attitude that we really want to be sharing with others. So what you were saying, the concept of sharing these things with people. I mean, it's such an effective way to improve an impact on the planet by teaching people to teach as well, which is fabulous, because then you get it's efficiency in numbers. So because we're all so eager to put this information out there and get people working with it, because it's worked so well for us, the idea is we want as many people as possible doing it. So you actually get mentored by colleagues and sort of, cheered on. So, yeah, I certainly felt very supported in what I did.
For those who are not really familiar with what sound meditation is or what a sound bath is, can you talk us through the process and what kind of instruments you're using and kind of the environment that you're creating for people?
Yeah, so, I mean, there are as many different ways to do a sound bath as there are people who run sound baths. So certain people will bring different elements to it, but just the basic multi-instrument sound bath is going to bring standard sound healing instruments together. Now, we sort of cherry pick instruments and techniques from various cultures and have brought them into sort of this healing modality that's kind of quite new. So your average sound bath will have Tibetan or Himalayan singing bowls. You'll have crystal singing bowls that again work on the same principle as the Tibetan singing bowls. They're made of clear crystals or frosted. They have very precise frequencies. So a trained sound therapist can actually very strategically use and pick certain note combinations to have certain effects. You'll have the voice, which I find people really connect beautifully with. And you don't have to be this amazing trained singer to have a powerful impact with your voice. So yeah, voice with mantra and chanting, and even people sing songs. We'll have chimes, we'll have drums, rhythm and drums, gongs, which are just beautiful. You can create a huge range of sounds with gongs. and then various percussion instruments. Sometimes I even add piano. There's a place where sometimes I run sunbaths. There's this beautiful grand piano in the room and I can't help myself. And I know there's some people who use guitar and, what the sound does though, that the whole point of it is really just to create like a bit of a drone with different combinations, certain relaxation effect on the body. And it really does work to distract the mind, but without any words that are suggestive, but just enough to allow the person to just let go and relax and just lie down. I mean, they're just lying down in a sound bath. That's the whole point. You're there for an hour, 45 minutes, hour and a half, doing nothing. When do we ever do that?
Just for someone who's just at home, who, is not really like deep into this world, what do you recommend for them in terms of how, they can kind of begin their journey into taking some time out for, some sound healing in nature or, something they can do in their home and how can it change their life?
Yeah, so what I always say to people, if you're starting meditation or any kind of a mindfulness practice, is don't try to suddenly do a 2-hour meditation. Do 5 minutes at a time. Just aim for 5 minutes because it can seem really quite long at the beginning. So that's the first thing, is don't try, just small little increments. And then I'd say, you've just got to allow yourself that space. It's really hard to sit still if you're not used to doing it. That's also why I say do it for a short period of time and just gradually lengthen it. You find you lengthen it quite quickly. And it's a matter of going out into nature. Seriously, you don't have to even have a soundtrack. Sit under a tree. Listen to a tree. Have you ever listened to a tree? You sit under a tree, a little bit of a breeze, you hear the rattle. If you're in a park, you'll actually hear that each tree sounds different. Now I'm sounding like a freak, but sit under a tree, lie in a park, close your eyes and just listen.
I love that. Because so many of us, we're not tuned into our environment. We're on our phones. We've got our headphones in. We are head down. We are not in tune with the natural world at all,
Yes.
or even just our immediate environment. So that's actually very, very powerful.
Yeah, and I would say that because we're so musically overstimulated, we have a very sophisticated ear these days because we can press a button and listen to anything, and the most amazing giant symphonic productions and virtuosi and all that sort of stuff. And sometimes it's nice just to have something a little bit simpler. And like the approach I take with sound baths, I basically will play just one instrument at a time. Don't try to do anything too complicated because we're always being bombarded by all this sophistication.
Yes, turn it down a notch
and
just listen to the birds and the trees. I love it.
Listen to the trees. Listen to the trees. They've got a lot to say.
I think that's a beautiful note to end on. Thank you so much, Natalie, for joining us today and for your insights and sharing your beautiful journey into this practice. It's been really illuminating.